All right, I think that'll do it. Take a quick sip of tea here. All right. Hello, Nevada County. This is David Clark Carroll with the Nevada County Tech Connection. We're a project of the Nevada County Economic Resource Council, tasked with looking at how businesses, nonprofits, how the whole community really uses technology. And in 2021, that's in every single aspect of life. And as we all know, most tech these days isn't much good if it's not connected. So we're real pleased to have joining with us tonight, Michael Anderson. He wears many, many hats in Nevada County. And we're so glad to have him back on to talk about that perennial topic, broadband. And last year we had him on to help flesh out our conversation about, we had broadband and we had fiber, and we're just starting to get fiber last year. We've now had a year where there's folks who are hooked up all over the county. They've got faster internet than we've ever had. We thought it'd be great to get Michael on to kind of give us an update and see where fiber is at right now, where the other providers are, and what we can look forward to in the future here.
Well, great, David. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the introduction. Yeah, it's been a year, and quite a lot of things have been going on with broadband in Nevada County and pretty much all over the country. I mean, the pandemic certainly has continued to be the main focus of trying to get people connected, trying to help people work from home, and kids are back in school, but there's more things that they're doing online, and telehealth continues to be a focus. So yeah, as a lot of folks that are in the broadband space are describing it, we had about 3 years of growth compressed into a year. And so there's, a lot of stress points that you might imagine along the way because of that pressure, but also a lot of folks are stepping up and making some changes. So I thought we would start out by just going through, our providers that we know and love here in Nevada County, the ones that you may be the company that serves you. And I think I can give a pretty good update of where everybody's at right now, where they were a year ago, and what they've got in the pipeline. So let's start with our friends at AT&T. I think a year ago, AT&T kind of was on the sidelines. They had a dedicated product where you could spend many hundreds of dollars per month for their dedicated lines at not very fast speeds. A 10 upload, 10 download, 10 megabits per second could cost, $500, even more. Depends on where you were. Yeah. I back a couple of years ago, that was $900. So the price has been coming down. Well, these dedicated products are now down around $200, $300. So the price is about half of what it was a year ago. But they've also introduced business fiber in Nevada County, which is a much cheaper product. And if you're in a building, let's say off of Idaho Maryland Road, maybe where the FedEx folks are, or some of those other laterals going in both directions, and there's fiber there, they will put fiber into that building and provide all the suites with what's called business fiber, and you can get 100 megabits for $60 a month.
Oh,
so
wow.
Yeah, so that's just a huge change. And they've upgraded a lot of their equipment at the central office in Grass Valley, and so they're rolling this out very aggressively. And I think there's been a change in the strategy with AT&T nationwide. They've decided to get back into the fiber business. It just seems like that's what's happening. So where it wasn't available before, suddenly it's available. So if you haven't checked recently, and that's a solution that might work for you, you should call the local rep, or you can just give me a call. We're working with a couple of representatives of AT&T. We don't have a financial relationship with them. We just, try to keep all of our IT customers with good broadband, because if our customers have good broadband, then we are able to do our job. So that's really my interest with ClientWorks as far as broadband is concerned. So yeah, that's AT&T. Pretty exciting, but at the same time, a little frustrating, because we've been asking them to do this for decades, and for them to suddenly decide to get into the aggressively move into the fiber space, it's a little bit of a market depression for other companies that have been working on their fiber projects, and so there's a little bit of an overlap there, and I don't think it's going to necessarily affect, let's say, race, for example, negatively, but there is some overlap there. So the bottom line is there is a lot of AT&T fiber in Nevada County. If you go out to a pole in an area that you're interested in and look up, and if you see an orange band around a big cable up there, if you look closely, maybe get some binoculars, you'll see it says AT&T fiber. So yeah, it's everywhere. You'd be surprised where it is. Yeah.
I don't think the words AT&T and fiber were used in the same paragraph last year.
No, we didn't really talk about it much. So this is a very big change, and it's kind of why I decided to start with them, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't really know about, and it might be something that they can benefit from. The only downside, other than the overlap, is that still in a lot of areas they only offer the dedicated product, which is still many hundreds of dollars for a much lower speed. And in that case, it may not pencil out for you. So anyways, that's what's going on with AT&T. We can talk a little bit about Comcast and Suddenlink, our two cable providers here. Both of them have made very little change, if not going backwards. Suddenlink in particular, their cable plant is aging, and they have a lot of service issues. So we don't know where that's going. It's unfortunate, but they have a lot of frustrated customers in their service area, which basically goes from Lake of the Pines and then kind of through the middle of Alta Sierra all the way up to the where the mobile home park is up there, so Little Pines, I think it's called, near LeVar Meadows. And then there's Comcast, which also has an aging cable plant, but they have, the downtown Nevada City and Grass Valley core areas pretty well covered. And they've been pretty good with their maintenance. They've had some issues. They certainly had issues during the PSPS outages last year. They only last for 4 hours before, if the power goes out, over a broad area, that they don't have battery backup with the transceivers on the poles, so those go down. And you might be in an area where you actually have power still, but where the loop is for Comcast doesn't have power. So we had a lot of people last year that would have power and no broadband, which was extremely frustrating. Luckily, we had no PSPS this year so far, but I thought we would talk a little bit about that. When we get to the end of the program. Did you want to ask any questions before I go to the next
so
provider?
It's not sounding like either of those providers are contemplating expansion plans. Is that safe to say? That
is safe to say. There really has been no indication that they're interested in getting into the fiber space. And, the bottom line is the fiber is the infrastructure, the future-proof infrastructure that we need, pretty much to every premise in the future, sooner rather than later. So that's really where the rest of the world's going, and we should certainly be not just following, but actually leading in that initiative as well.
So we're
So
now seeing coaxial cable has pretty much gone the way of DSL, as it's not worth investing new lines in at this point. Is that fair to say? Or is
probably
it just,
not. I got to hand it to the engineers though. There's a technology called DOCSIS 3.1, which bumped the speed possibilities for coax from down in the hundreds to a full gig. So that competes with fiber for now. And they actually have a new DOCSIS protocol that they're trying to get to, which would bump it up supposedly up to 10 gigs. But at that point, they really start to get to the end of their ability to stretch that technology. So
well,
yeah,
and with coax, even if they get that fast, that wouldn't be a symmetrical upload download
no,
speed,
it's not
correct?
symmetrical at
Yeah.
all. So and you never get the average. They'll say 1 gig service, and you're actually getting 700 or less, and the upload can be as low as 20 megs. So
Yeah.
it's really not what we need going forward, and I'm sure the cable folks won't like me to say that, but it's just a fact. So anyways,
Well,
um,
it's I've run into that. My father has,
mhm,
Comcast, and gets lightning fast download speed.
yeah,
You do the speed test, 450, 500. You do
right,
the upload test, 15.
yeah, exactly,
And it's,
yep.
yeah,
And what's happening with the technology with AR, VR, Internet of Things, and all of the video stuff, the upload is becoming much more important. So cutting that off like that isn't gonna. It just doesn't. It does. It's not future proof. That's the best way to describe it. So
it's
yeah.
not even tomorrow proof.
Yeah, it needs. We're going to need to think about what we're going to do in downtown Nevada City and downtown Grass Valley. Maybe Comcast will step up and decide to replace everything over a few years with fiber. I have heard nothing to that effect, and in fact, if they do it here, they would have to do it all across the country. They have millions of customers, so it would be a huge expense, and they'd be making a very big investment in an entirely new technology. They do have fiber. That's how they get to the coax. So there's plenty of fiber that belongs to Comcast and even Suddenlink, but that's that last mile that gets really costly. So anyways, remains to be seen what's happening there. Let's see, we can go to race. So last year, race was still finishing up their project along 174. It looks like they're getting very close to being finished. They did have some pretty serious outages in June of this year, and a lot of people were pretty frustrated with them. There was a problem with their knock, I believe, which is, I think, in the Bay Area, and that there was a redundancy issue. And I spoke with some of their representatives at that time, and they said that they were working very hard to get that remediated by October. So we're now in October, and so far they've been pretty solid. So and even into August, September, that those issues started to disappear. So they seem like a real stable entity, and going forward, they have a project that is going through the CPUC that they put into the California Advanced Services Fund program in 2019, I believe. April of 2019 is when they put that application in, and we'll be learning probably fairly soon whether they're going to get that award or not. And that's for a project called Gigafy Nevada City, and that covers an area above Nevada City. So we'll see how that goes. So did we talk about vast networks last time?
I don't think they made the agenda.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about them, because they're going to be a really important player. So for those of you who remember, I think it was in 2014, there was a fiber project that came through Nevada County. There was, giant spools of orange conduit, Duraline conduit everywhere. And everybody was like, "Oh, we're getting fiber." Well, it was a middle mile project. It's like an expressway, and it doesn't have a whole lot of off ramps, so it's not last mile, and it doesn't get you connected at your premise. But what it does do is it gives us a redundancy that we really need here in Nevada County to get backhaul that's not just AT&T or just Comcast. It's another way out to the world. And all it takes is one fiber cut in Sacramento with the main AT&T trunk, and then we're down for a while. So redundancy is really important here, and that's one of the things that a lot of us have been focused on is how do we get a backup circuit. We could talk about some other backup strategies for backhaul at the end of going through all of these providers. Let's see. So that's VAST, and they're going to be providing more backhaul for more projects, and they're also looking at doing some MDUs, multiple dwelling units. So we'll see more of their presence and their strategies trying to get people connected with fiber.
I just love the idea of providing more redundancy, because I think that's one of the things that's, like everyone's been to the store and told, "Oh, the internet's down, we can't take your card now." Exactly. And that seems like one of those things where you're scratching your head like, wait, how? How? But when you're relying on that one single line to power everything, it can happen. So that's really exciting news.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've really been focusing on at ClientWorks is providing equipment that does automatic failover and trying to get people to realize that you don't want that card processing situation to go south on you and be down for a day or two. It's nice to have some kind of a backup, and there's a lot of strategies. A very robust point of sale system will actually be able to cache stuff for a while. So there's lots of good solutions out there. So let's see here. I think that's the bigger ones, and then we have projects like Nevada County Fiber up on Banner. Andrew Wilkinson up there is working away and has a dozen or so customers, but he's got a bunch more that are on their way, and he's really doing a fantastic job in an area that has very low density. So it's a real challenge to get fiber to those kinds of places, and he's come up with a pretty good technique for being able to deploy that in easements that go across neighbors' properties, and he's just getting everybody together up there to make it a team effort. And so I think there's going to be some great success there. He also has a California Advanced Services Fund grant pending. He applied at the same time as Race. And last time I spoke with him, he said that that's all moving to the fore, and it looks like it might be happening in the next month or two. They'll be releasing the results of those applications, and he was very positive about where his project was in that process.
That's awesome. He was we had him on last year.
Yeah, I remember.
Just the way he works with people, it's like he's not going to take no for an answer. He's going to bring you into the project somehow or other if he needs your help.
Right. And he's I think he's got a good 150 folks that are teed up for the next phase, and we'll see how that goes.
I used to live up there on Red Dog, and it's an easy sell. You knock on someone's door, hey,
right?
Do you like HughesNet? No.
Yeah.
Hey, I got an option.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yep. Yes. So let's see. There's Spiral, the new Spiral that is getting ready to it wants to do a project also above Nevada City. There's some overlap there with the race. We'll see how that gets worked out. And anyways, that's supposedly a very large project. We're trying to figure out, who the investor is and how that's all going to be worked out. But it has a lot of potential. So we'll see how that goes going forward. And let's see. So I should mention that there's the Nevada County Last Mile Grant Program. And in 2019, there was, I believe, just 2 companies that were awarded those grants. One was Nevada County Fiber, Andrew, and then the other one was, it used to be called X-Wire. The company's now Oasis, Devin Koch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he was usually he's been a fixed wireless guy for quite a while, but is now starting to look at fiber, and has a few projects that he's teed up that are going to heat up some neighborhoods with fiber. So he's starting to he wants to have a mixed approach to this. But the award that he received in 2019 was for East Nevada County, up above Prosser, I believe.
Okay.
Out that way out there in the boonies. Apparently there's some customers out there, and he had a fixed wireless solution for them. So, and I believe that's all done, and that was that project. So in 2020, there were actually 4 projects that were awarded. One was Nevada County Fiber. Another one was Oasis again. Another area in East County, same, basically adding on to what he had done before in 2019. And then Spiral received an award for their project that is in that area above Nevada City. And then I'm associated with Northern Sierra Broadband, and we received an award, and we're doing a project down off of Karen Drive in South County. Our approach there, it's a neighborhood of 35 homes that had conduit to all the homes, but it hadn't been used for quite a while. And it had never been used. It was just sitting there. It was originally installed for a cable company and the company never showed up. So it's just been sitting vacant forever. And we've cleaned it out, capped it off, validated it, all of it. And we're going to be putting fiber in there and using an approach very similar to what Andrew is doing. He's using AT&T backhaul, and so are we. And that's another area I wanted to bring up with AT&T, is that they're suddenly very happy to provide you with backhaul for your neighborhood. And there's quite a number of projects around the area that are using AT&T backhaul. We'll talk about one of them that we've partnered with that's really interesting in a moment. But we want to stick with fiber for now. So that's Northern Sierra Broadband. And I think, and then X-Wire, Spiral, I think that's everybody that's in the fiber space. And then as far as the wireless companies that we've got, they're all doing the same things that they've been doing. Colfaxnet, for example, Go SkyWest Broadband, and Succeed.net. And I think that those are the ones that people know about here, other than Smarter Broadband, which is the biggest one in our area. And I believe they are just continuing to support and serve quite a number of customers that are very happy with their service. And I haven't talked to Adam in a while. I don't know if he's looking to get into the fiber game, but I just know that he has a lot of loyal customers and really great customer support. We still refer a lot of our customers to them when it's a good fit. So that's a company that everybody knows about, and they continue to actually provide, and they're a good solution for that that redundancy that we talked about. So, you know, if the fiber goes down and you have a connection to smarter broadband, it can fail over to that, or vice versa, the other way around. If you're, you know, with a very slow fiber connection, you know, maybe through the dedicated product, and you know, smarter broadband is providing you with a much faster service. But you know, we've seen some of that. So it's really a mix and match here in Nevada County. You have to be flexible, know where you're at and what's available to you, and then come up with, you know, the best hybrid solution that you can. And if you look at the Nevada County broadband plan, and I would encourage everybody to read that. It's not a very long document, but just I believe it's, for a search, it's Nevada County broadband strategy, and it's on the Nevada County website. And it just talks about the fact that, you know, we've got lots of providers, we've got lots of solutions, and that, you know, going forward, that's going to continue. There's not going to be just one big, you know, here's the answer to solve this problem. It's going to continue for quite a while to be a mix and match approach. And I think prices are going to continue to drive downward, and we'll get faster speeds. So, you know, it's all to the good, but there's no silver bullet.
Well, while we're talking fixed wireless, you talked a little bit about some of the projects that are going to be happening above Nevada City. Is that up Bloomfield, up 20, both?
It's all over the place, and so I want to bring in a provider known as Althea. Have you heard of Althea?
No.
Are you familiar with that? So this is a mesh wireless network. It's a company out of Portland, Oregon, and they have a really innovative wireless solution. So basically, you get a couple of backhauls over a service area, and then you have these radios all talking to each other, and they basically figure out the best path back to the backhaul point. But what's really brilliant is the billing is all done through blockchain. So, yeah, so the routers figure out how many packets you're using, who's going through your router, and automatically calculates what you pay each month. And if let's say you decide to go on vacation or leave the country for a month, you can turn your router off and you won't pay anything. So it's a really interesting approach, and we're actually working with them. So we believe that you know, we've got to get a lot of people connected quickly. That's really super important at this point. And there's so many people in Nevada County that, you know, just don't have very good service. They're either in an area where DSL is dying, and it's already died, or it's about to. And they're desperate. Those folks are desperate for some way to stay alive and not have to use, you know, like a jetpack over cellular, which is, you know, increasingly congested. So this solution, you know, what we're doing is identifying areas where we can do a backhaul from AT&T or VAST, and then, you know, heat up anywhere from 30 to 50 homes, maybe more. And then along the edges, put the radios there and build these Althea networks, and get those folks into the 21st century, get them connected at speeds, you know, up in the 100, 200s, and then eventually get fiber to them. So that's our new strategy.
So is that looking like a potential bridge solution for places like the Ridge and
Correct.
really far out places?
Correct. That's right.
That's really exciting, because I don't think we had anything really on the radar for those folks last year.
No, we didn't. And but you know, need is the mother of invention, and so there's just a lot of things that are popping up that we're trying to solve that whole connectivity issue for those really hard hit areas that just are not they're too dense, or they're not dense enough to pencil a good project. So, you got to come up with something. And yeah, so that's the wireless. The only wireless that we haven't talked about yet would be cellular and satellite. And the traditional satellite is a the HughesNet thing, all that stuff. That's kind of gone by the wayside. But of course, everybody talks about Starlink, and Starlink is the solution. That's going to be the silver bullet. Well, the thing about wireless, as we've discussed before, is it really is, it's complementary, not competitive. We need both. You need good wireless, and you need good wireline. And wireline is the future proof. That's the solid connection that everybody's going to need 10, 20 years from now. But wireless is a good step if that's your main connection. But it's also something that you need, obviously, when you're on the go, or for convenience, mobility, any of those things. That's where wireless comes in. And Starlink is a unique wireless play, since it is fixed for the house. It is for a premise. And of course, the way I characterize Starlink is that that those satellites, right now they've got a couple thousand up there, and I guess eventually it's going to be 14,000. This is going to be really interesting. But they're in very low Earth orbit, 60 miles, and they supposedly only stay up there for 3 or 4 years, and then they have to be replaced. So they're kind of a commodity item. They just burn up, and you just throw some more up there. Those satellites are like cell towers. They're like the traveling cell towers. And then the cell phone is sitting at your house, not going anywhere. So it's a kind of a reverse play of how that whole thing works. And it's I know several people that have it. It works fabulously. It's very fast. It's very reliable, even with just in beta and a very small deployment so far of these satellites. So it's definitely got a future. However, one caveat: in about 10 or 15 years, the laws of physics will say that we can't get those speeds up any higher. And I would encourage everybody to do a search for Nielsen's law, and that'll tell you. It's sort of like Moore's law for processing. Nielsen's law is about half the growth of what speeds have been growing, since broadband came around in the 70s, and what those speed increases have been. And there's a very clear curve of what's going to be needed. You can project, we're going to be in the terabits probably in the 2030s and the 2040s. So wireless isn't going to get that fast. So wireless will continue to be a convenience, and it'll continue to be necessary, but it will eventually be replaced for that required premise connection. Once we're all living in our VR and AR worlds, the amount of bandwidth that we're going to need is going to be tremendous. So.
Well, it's encouraging to hear that there are folks that are connected with it and that are enjoying its use today. Because again, last year, this is another option we didn't have last year.
That's right. Yeah.
Have you heard much about the continued rollout of Starlink as far as when we might expect wider availability of it? So I know there's apocryphal stories of folks, they've signed up, they've put their deposit, and they're just
languishing. Yeah, exactly. No, I've heard those same stories. I think there was an initial rollout, and we're kind of in a pause right now. But I've been hearing some inklings of that opening up again, and there'll be another burst of activity, and there'll be more people connected. So we'll see. But if that's an option for you, if you have the sky view, and that's really important. If you've got trees and if you're in a gully, it's not a good option for you. It just doesn't work. So, but if you're on a hilltop and you don't have a whole lot of trees, or you're willing to cut a few down that are maybe on the edge that might get in the way, then it could possibly work for you. So yeah, it's in those cases, I'm hearing really great things.
Well, that's awesome. Because never thought I'd be excited about satellite after having HughesNet.
Yeah, well, the main thing about HughesNet, the problem was, and you can't use it with Zoom, for example, is the latency issue. The round trip is just too long. So at 60 miles, there's the latencies are down in the tens and 20 milliseconds. So it's amazing.
That's good.
Yeah, it's quite startling how fast it is, how little the latency is.
So I think that brings us then to, you mentioned there are still cell phone providers that do have the ability, if all else fails, you can still get on there. I'll talk a little bit about those options.
Yeah, I think we discussed this last year. When the kids were all at home trying to do their homework and talk to the teachers over their jetpacks, it just the cell towers were choked. That has not changed. There are still areas that, and I think you're shaking your head, so you probably have experienced that. Feeling like at a particular time in the afternoon, everything was working fine, and all of a sudden, it just spins, and you're like, and it's the data. The phone works, the texts work.
Yeah.
It's the data plan, and they choke the data because they want to keep the phones working. So it's very frustrating. It's just not a reliable situation. And some of the plans, with T-Mobile, I believe you can pay money for uncapped, and some of the, I think AT&T also offers that.
I had a dedicated T-Mobile home internet, standalone, not portable modem that had to plug in, and it was okay. But it's what you're saying. There'd be that time in the afternoon when all the kids are doing homework, and you can't check your email.
Yep. Yeah, and or there'd be an event in Grass Valley or Nevada City, and suddenly everything just comes to a grinding halt. During the river fire, it was really interesting. The Nevada Union campus was a place for people to come and shelter, and they all drove over there, and they all sat in their lawn chairs, and they all got on the cell tower that's sitting right up there at the superintendent's building, and that tower just crashed hard. It was during the whole fire period, that week, you couldn't get it, even the phone service was affected. So it's a delicate situation, and we really need the providers to build out more infrastructure. I think there's some things in the works, but they kind of keep their cards close to the chest. So the bottom line is that cell service is really an important part of broadband. There's no single solution. All these pieces and parts have to work together, and without good cell service, it's going to impact the economic viability in Nevada County. So we have to look at that. We have to make sure that our cellular service is functional.
This is a good segue to bringing it back to what stays on when the power goes out.
Mm-hmm.
What's in an emergency like the river fire, how are people going to be able to check that that zone haven map? And it sounds like there isn't a concrete answer necessarily to that if these cell providers aren't.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue. It's a safety issue, and we probably need more microcells and other technologies to augment the existing towers that we have. And there's plenty of backhaul for that. So we'll see what develops. I have a feeling that we're going to see some activity in that arena. This coming 2022, I'm hoping to see some improvement in there, because really that's exactly when people are depending on that technology, when they're in their car trying to get the heck out of Dodge, right? They need that cellular service to work, and that's exactly when everybody's on the tower trying to figure out. They're all hitting Ubinet, they're all hitting various, they're calling their families. It just, it clogs everything up, and we need that to work.
As far as the service staying on, even if
Mhm.
it's slow and choked due to actually having electricity for it, how's that looking? I know there haven't
Well,
been.
you mean as far as the towers continuing to operate? I believe they beefed up their battery backup and their generator systems. So maybe a year or two ago, that was an issue. That seems to not be the problem. It's the backhaul. There's just not
Okay.
enough bandwidth getting out to the rest of the world. So, and one of the things that Steve Monahan with the county's been working on is part of the issue with this is that we have this connection to the outside world, and these routers end up going all the way back to Sacramento or Bay Area or wherever, and then you may be talking to somebody just down the street, but it's going through several routers in and out, and we need to be able to have our routes much more localized. And there's some things that are happening there to make those hops shorter. And that again gets back into what we were talking about before, is improving the middle mile, improving the backhaul, improving our routing capabilities so that we keep our local traffic local, so that it's not so dependent on the rest of the state.
So this sounds like a good point to talk about SB 156. Sound good?
Sounds like a good transition point.
All right, let me pull up these slides for you here.
Yeah, so in July of this year, SB 156 was signed by the governor, and it's providing an extraordinary amount of money for broadband in the state of California. And this legislation came about because of the pandemic, largely. It's been in the works for a while, but the amount of money increased because people realized that where we were with the pandemic was not acceptable. So this is really a once in a lifetime opportunity to get people connected in this state and do it correctly. And what's interesting about this is that it's an open access network, and it's going to be owned by the state of California. This is the middle mile portion of this. So while there'll be a lot of private partners, the state is going to exercise a lot of oversight and control of this network. And what that does is it provides a level playing field for lots of providers to get in and participate and not be locked out by some of the duopoly behavior. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. There's a lot of focus from the lobbyists, with the duopolies that are wanting a seat at the table, and they're not really all that excited about this open access part of it. But that's was one of the main focuses of the legislature for passing this. So I think it's got a really good chance of going forward. And the mechanism for this is that the California Department of Technology, which already exists, is going to have a commission and a broadband provider or a broadband czar underneath that California Department of Technology, which will oversee those expenditures and then funnel that through the CPUC and the California Advanced Services Fund. So it's another layer, but this layer is to streamline the vetting process for these projects and get things done quicker. The telecommunications staff at the CPUC, it's a small staff, and they've got a lot on their plate, so there's no way they'd be able to handle that by themselves. So that's the mechanism for this. This slide is just sort of a brief overview of what last mile, middle mile, first mile are all about, in case you aren't familiar with those terms.
So that vast backhaul capability that we were talking about, that falls into the middle mile category.
Correct.
Where it's allowing it to connect to the nodes. Whereas really what everyone here wants, it's that last mile, but you can't have one without the other.
They all
I
work
think that's,
together, right? So,
yeah,
in this slide, it talks about the first mile being, between countries, and this is a more of a Eurocentric slide. In the United States, the first mile is along our interstates. So 85, we've got all kinds of big fast circuits there that are owned by the telcos. And so the middle mile projects connect to those and go into various areas. So for example, the VAST network starts in well, I'll go but the back way. It starts at Calusa on 5.
okay.
And then goes up 20 to Nevada City, and then through Grass Valley, back down sort of a backwards way. It's along McCourtney and Wolf Mountain instead of along 49. Then it hits 49. It's pretty much 49 all the way down until it gets to Fresno, and then it's along 99 to Bakersfield, and then back over to 5. So it ties into 5 at the top and the bottom of the state. And that's serving all of the gold country, all along Highway 49. So it connects the anchor institutions, so like Nevada County government, Sierra College, the high school, and various other major points along the way. Those are already connected to the VAST network, but I think we're going to see a significant expansion of them connecting up some last mile exchange points where we'll be able to use them for backhaul to get some neighborhoods heated up. So next
Very
slide.
cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of talk about open access right now. It's one of those buzzwords you're hearing a lot about. People are saying, "Oh, my network's open access this, open access that." There's a real clear definition of what open access really is, and this is it. You really need to be able to separate these layers. So I don't know if this slide is going to be available, later for people to peruse. They certainly should be able to.
I can post the images in the comments.
If you can post the images, that would be good, because this bears a little bit of studying. The thing about open access is it's becoming one of those words like natural food. It's not a it can be kind of anything. So this is a really good description of how you break up those layers, and what it does is it provides a platform for services on top of the transport layer, and it's differentiated from the transport layer. In other words, it's not a bundle. What you have is anybody can get on that fiber, and they can compete for a data plan. They can compete for voice, and this is not just over the top. This is actually at the layer 3 level, so you'll be able to have a more integrated experience. So anyways, it's it's a good slide to read through and kind of scratch your head over and see whether the network that you're currently using at your house or your business is an open access network or not. So next slide.
And unfortunately, most of them are not yet.
That's correct. So, if you're a member of the Tech Connection, or thinking about joining and or just, interested in broadband and I'm wondering how you can help. The thing is that there's an educational process to this whole situation that really is important. And we know what we need. We need speed. We need reliable service. We want it to be affordable, and we want it to be future proof. There's a link to the strategic plan. But once you've got yourself educated, then start educating others. Talk to your political and business leaders in the area, educate yourself on open access and learn why it's important, and then help others understand it, so that that's really the path to getting better broadband in our community. And open access is an idea that is well known in Europe and Asia, and it's kind of new here. So it really is the future. It's the way things are going to be. So bundles are probably, you've heard about cutting the cord. Bundles are going away, and there's probably no stopping that. So that's the answer, and that's it. Yeah.
Well, I think that's it's just kind of a great place to wrap up, because as we keep saying, there's no one answer. There's not going to be like a magic bullet that gets everyone in Nevada County online as fast as possible. It's going to have to figure out what's best for your neighborhood. Talk to your neighbors.
That's right.
Maybe you can do something like Michael's doing down in, what was it, Karen Drive, you said?
Yeah, it's Buck Mountain Estates. It's a neighborhood that they got together and said, we need to solve this problem, and because they had the conduit already in the ground, it just made a lot of sense to put a pilot project for Northern Sierra Broadband in that location, and so that's what we're doing. And yeah, it's exciting, but we're going to do a lot more of those. That's the if once we get that working, and if it's successful, then we hope to expand it quickly, the model.
We've got I'll try and stick a link to you gave a talk on Northern Sierra Fiber Broadband quite a while back when we were still inside in the room with people.
Yeah.
And I'll throw that link in so folks can see a little bit more about what you're talking about.
Well, we have a domain with our website. We're still we're kind of keeping, we don't want to get too many people like talking about their neighborhoods. I already get those calls all day long, so I want to get the network built and the pilot project off the ground before we really start to flood the zone. But the domain name is northernsierrabroadband.com, and we'll have something up pretty soon.
Awesome. And I mean, with you, with Andrew, anyone else thinking about a similar project, it's doable.
It is.
You can just talk to your neighbors, figure out how to make it happen, because don't wait for it.
Yep.
Seek it out, hunt it down. And as we saw with AT&T in the last year, sometimes you get a happy surprise. You never know what's going to come out. So I think I don't think I have any more questions other than when's everyone going to have fiber in the future.
Yeah. Well, that's the goal, and hopefully sooner rather than later. I mean, you really it's going to be just like electricity. If you don't have a fiber line to your property, then there's still a lot of people that are off the grid, for example, and they've come up with their good solutions. And you'll be, if you're off the broadband grid, then you'll have to be coming up with a solution. But as for everybody else, having being on the grid, whether it's electricity or broadband, it's a requirement. It's the fourth utility, as they call it. So I think
it's a great comparison, and I think we'll hopefully give some optimism to folks out in places like the Ridge, because Mother Truckers has power lines. Mother Truckers could have fiber one day.
They need fiber, absolutely. Yep, no question about it. Yep,
well,
they deserve it. Yep.
I think that about covers an awful lot of territory tonight. I want to thank Michael Anderson for joining us tonight. David Clark Carroll with the Nevada County Tech Connection. We have been checking in on broadband, and we had happily a lot of pretty good news. So
yeah.
Thanks, folks.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks, David. I appreciate the opportunity, and we'll check in maybe in a few months and see where things are at then.